Ever get one of those, like, totally random bursts of musical inspiration? Like, when you're nowhere near your studio?
Oh, tell me about it. Happens to me all the time.
It's the worst, right? Like, "Oh, great, now I have this awesome melody stuck in my head, and I can't even hum it into a microphone."
It's like the universe is playing a joke on us, right?
Right. Well, it seems like Ableton might actually have a solution for us with this new Ableton Move thing.
Yeah, I think they're really onto something with this one.
So, no more scrambling for the voice memo app. We're talking, like, a legit music production device,
Hmm.
but it's small enough to fit in your backpack.
You got it. And to really get into it, we're diving deep into the Ableton Move manual today.
Love it. Ready to get our hands dirty?
Born ready.
Awesome. I've skimmed the manual, and one thing that immediately jumped out at me was that it's totally standalone.
Yeah, that's a big deal. You don't need a computer or anything else to get creative, which is kind of wild when you think about it.
For real. So are we talking one of those, like, super stripped down devices? Because I'm picturing something with, like, two buttons and a blinking light.
Not even close.
Yeah.
Actually, that was the first thing that blew me away when I got my hands on Ableton Move. The sheer power they managed to pack into this thing. It's got a quad-core processor. A quad-core processor.
Wait, seriously.
Seriously, it can handle all those complex instruments and effects without breaking a sweat.
Okay, now that you mention it, I do remember seeing something about a ridiculous amount of storage.
Right, 64 gigabytes built in. That's like an entire sample library in your pocket.
Oh, way.
Way, no more worrying about running out of space for samples, even if you're on a like month-long songwriting retreat in the Himalayas or something.
Okay, so we've established that this thing is powerful, but what about actually using it? Because honestly, I'm picturing a million tiny buttons and endless menus.
Not at all. Ableton is usually pretty good about making their products user-friendly, and Move is no exception. Plus, the manual does a good job of walking you through everything.
Okay, good, good. It starts with the basics, right? Like, here's what's in the box.
Exactly, power supply, cables, the usual suspects.
Gotta love a good what's in the box section.
Right. But it's when you get to the hardware overview that things get really interesting. 32 velocity sensitive pads.
Oh, wow. So you can actually play this thing like an instrument.
Absolutely. It's not just for tapping out beats, although you can definitely do that too.
That's awesome.
And get this, they've even included a built-in mic and a line-in.
Hold on. Built-in mic and a line-in.
Yep. So we're not just talking about like sketching out rough ideas.
Yeah.
You can use this to make full tracks with audio recordings and everything.
Okay, this is already blowing my mind. But I gotta ask, for someone like me who mainly uses Ableton Live,
Yeah.
can I even use Move with that?
Here's the cool part. Ableton Move is designed primarily as a standalone device,
Right.
but it also connects to your computer to work seamlessly with Ableton Live, so you really have options.
Okay, that is seriously cool. So it's like having a portable studio and a live controller all in one.
Pretty much.
This is already super impressive.
Right.
But okay, before I get too far ahead of myself, what about setting this thing up? Am I gonna find myself, like, hunched over the manual in frustration?
You might be surprised. Like I said, Ableton is all about user friendliness, and they've got this really great onboarding tutorial, especially for first-time users. It's super straightforward.
That's awesome. For someone totally new to Ableton or even just new to this kind of hardware, that can be a lifesaver.
Yeah.
All those buttons and lights can be a bit intimidating.
Exactly. They've really gone out of their way to make it as easy as possible.
Love that. Okay, speaking of making things easier, I saw something in the manual about a move manager. What is that exactly?
Ah, yes. Move Manager. It's like this really cool web-based control center for Ableton Move.
Okay, I'm listening. Web-based control center.
Yeah, so think of it as like mission control for managing everything on the device. All your sets, your samples, your recordings, even your presets.
So wait, I can access all that stuff without having to plug it into my computer.
You got it. And it's not just basic file management either.
Okay.
Like, if you think about it, it really shows how well Ableton understands the way musicians work today.
How so?
We're not chained to a single device or location anymore. You can be anywhere, and you still have control over everything.
That's a game changer for sure. Because
Yeah.
honestly, how many times have you been stuck with a great idea, but no way to really capture it?
All the time. It's the worst.
Right. So with Move Manager, I'm guessing that's not an issue anymore.
Not at all. Say you're on the go and you want to upload some fresh sounds or maybe organize your samples into folders to keep things tidy. Move Manager lets you do all that from any web browser, no extra software required.
Wow. They really did think of everything.
They really did.
I can already see this being a lifesaver for someone like me who's, well, let's just say organizationally challenged.
I feel that.
This is already blowing my mind, and we haven't even gotten to the music making part yet.
I know, right?
Although, honestly, being able to organize everything from my phone already has me feeling more inspired.
See? They're clever like that, these Ableton folks.
And I get the feeling we're just scratching the surface here. This is all before we even get to, the actual music making part of this whole thing.
Oh, absolutely. This is like the foundation for a whole world of creative possibilities. And speaking of creative possibilities, we got to talk about the connectivity options on this thing.
Okay, yeah, the manual did mention something about that. What's the deal there?
So you can actually plug in your favorite MIDI devices.
Wait, really? So it's not just the touchpads on the device itself. You can hook up like a full-size keyboard or
You
something.
got it. If you want to use your favorite MIDI keyboard or, like you said, a drum pad controller, whatever you've got, knock yourself out.
That's wild. So it's all about like flexibility and adapting to how you work best.
Exactly. They've really opened it up in that sense. And if you're into jamming with other people,
Oh, yeah.
Ableton Link is built right in.
Okay, hold on. Ableton Link. I've heard that term thrown around, but to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what it is.
So basically, it lets you connect Move wirelessly to other devices on the same network, and they all play together in sync.
Okay, so like what would that look like in practice?
Okay, so say you're jamming with your friends, right? And one of you is using Move, someone else is on Ableton Live on their laptop, maybe someone else is using their iPhone with Ableton Note, just a typical Tuesday night. Ableton Link keeps everything perfectly in time.
Oh, wow. That's actually super cool. So like no more messing around with cables and adapters and hoping for the best.
Exactly, it just works, which is kind of magical when you think about it.
Kind of is. And then the manual also mentioned Ableton Cloud integration too.
Oh, yeah, that's where things get really interesting.
Because I'm not going to lie, when I hear cloud integration, I kind of tune out. It
Hmm.
feels like every device these days has some kind of cloud thing going on, and it's usually more trouble than it's worth.
I feel you, but trust me on this one. Ableton Cloud is like the central hub that connects all of your devices and projects together seamlessly. It's actually really cool.
Okay, so give me an example. How would I use this in the real world?
Okay, say you're working on a beat on Move, right? You're on a roll, feeling good, and then suddenly you got to run out the door.
The story of my life.
Right. But here's the beauty of it with Ableton Cloud. You can just pick up right where you left off on your phone using Ableton Note.
Wait, seriously?
Seriously, no more emailing yourself project files or trying to remember what version is on what device. It's all right there in the cloud.
That is such a time saver. And honestly, a sanity saver too.
Oh, 100%. And then, when you're back home in your studio, you can just open up that same project on your computer in Ableton Live.
Oh, wow.
It's like having one continuous workflow.
That's actually incredible. They really did think of everything with this. It's like they're reading our minds.
Right. It's like they've actually experienced the pain points of being a musician in the 21st century.
Okay, so we've geeked out about the organization and the workflow and all that good stuff. But let's get to what really matters here.
The music.
Yes. The
Yeah.
actual process of making music on this thing.
Well, the manual breaks it down into three main modes.
Okay.
You've got set overview, note mode, and session mode.
So it's more than just a simple, like, drum machine or a groove box. There's actual depth there.
Oh yeah, don't let the size fool you. This thing is deep. Like one of the things they highlight in the manual is expressive playing.
Expressive playing. Okay, now you've got my attention.
So remember those velocity sensitive pads we were talking about?
Yeah.
They're not just for tapping out rhythms. They have something called polyphonic aftertouch.
Polyphonic aftertouch. Okay, you have to break that down for me.
It means each individual pad responds to pressure independently.
Oh, wow.
So you can, say, play a chord on the pads, and then you can actually press harder or softer on each note in that chord to change how it sounds.
That's insane.
Right. You get incredibly nuanced and expressive melodies that way.
Wow. So you really can play it like an instrument. That's incredible. What else is hiding in the manual?
Well, another cool thing, sampling.
Ooh, sampling? Every musician's best friend?
Right. You can sample directly into the device.
Wait, so I could, like, sample a sound from, I don't know, a YouTube video or something, and immediately start messing with it on Move.
Well, you're not supposed to sample copyrighted material.
Of course. Just, hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically, sure. You could sample anything you want and boom, it's in there, ready to be transformed.
That's incredible.
And then, to make things even more interesting, you can actually sample Move's own output.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So you could create a cool loop, sample that loop, and then mangle it even further.
The possibilities are endless. This is like a sonic playground in a box.
It really is. And to top it off, there's this whole customizable workflow thing.
Okay, yeah, the customizable workflow. I feel like that's a rabbit hole we could disappear down for hours.
Right. But basically, it means you can tweak things like the quantization grid to match how you like to play.
So if you're more of a go with the flow kind of musician, you can loosen things up a bit.
Yep. Or, if you're all about that grid, you can tighten it right up.
Love that. So Ableton basically said, here's a super powerful tool, now make it your own.
Exactly. Which is honestly the best kind of goal, right?
100%. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground here.
Mhm.
We've talked about organization, connectivity, sampling, workflow customization. What else is there?
Well, there is one more thing, and it might just be the coolest feature yet.
Okay, you've definitely piqued my interest. Lay it on me. What is it?
Control live mode.
Control live mode. Now, those are two words I never thought I'd hear in the same sentence. Tell me more.
So we were talking earlier about how Ableton Move can connect to your computer and work with Ableton Live, right?
Right, yeah.
Well, in Control Live mode, Move basically transforms into this awesome control surface for live.
Hold on. So, like, I can actually trigger clips in live from the Move, tweak effects, launch scenes. Am I understanding this right?
You got it. The manual even talks about this thing called a session ring that pops up in Ableton Live when you're using Move in this mode. It's like a little window into your live session, and you've got direct access to everything.
Whoa. Okay, so I could be, like, jamming out on the Move, come up with a cool idea, and then just seamlessly transition over to live to really flesh it out.
That's the beauty of it. You get the best of both worlds, that immediate hands-on feel of a standalone instrument, and then the full power and flexibility of live, all in one package.
It's like having a portable studio that can also control my main setup.
This is wild. Okay, so does everything work the same in Control Live mode as it does in Standalone mode? Mostly, yeah. You don't have to relearn everything when you switch back and forth, which is great. But the manual does mention that some of those standalone features, like the sampling we talked about and the 16 pitches layout, they're not available in Control Live mode.
Right, that makes sense. You can't have it all, I guess.
Exactly.
But even with those limitations, this thing still sounds insanely powerful.
It really is. Think about it. You could be on the bus, sketching out ideas on your Ableton Move, and then bam, inspiration hits.
Oh, I feel that.
You get home, you connect to Live, and suddenly those rough ideas you were playing around with on the bus are becoming a full track.
Okay, I'm sold.
Right.
So we've covered so much ground today, everything from the basics of what Ableton Move even IS to all these incredible features and possibilities.
We really have.
Where does this leave us? What does all of this actually mean for musicians?
I think at first glance, Ableton Move might seem like just another cool portable music gadget, but it's so much more than that.
It really is. The more we've dug into it, the more impressed I am by the thought and care that went into creating this thing.
Right. And for me, the most exciting part is this. The way Ableton has managed to combine immediacy and depth in such a seamless way. So, on the one hand, you've got this super intuitive, really tactile interface that just makes you want to play and experiment.
It's not intimidating at all.
Not in the slightest. And then on the other hand, you've got all of these incredibly powerful features like polyphonic aftertouch, customizable workflows, seamless cloud integration.
Right. It's like they didn't skimp on any of the detail.
They really didn't.
And you can't forget about being able to switch between standalone mode and using it as a controller for live.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's huge.
For someone like me who's always going back and forth between that initial spark of inspiration and then really diving into production, being able to do all of that with one device is a game changer.
100%. And I think it speaks to a larger trend we're seeing in music technology in general, breaking down those traditional barriers between coming up with ideas and actually turning them into finished tracks.
Because those barriers are the worst.
The actual worst.
And Ableton Move just completely obliterates them.
Exactly. It's like they're saying, here are the tools you need, now go create something amazing.
Yes. No more excuses.
Right.
Love it. Well, on that note, for everyone listening, here's something to think about. How could this combination of immediacy and depth, this idea of having all the tools you need right at your fingertips, change the way you approach making music?
Ooh, good question.
Could Ableton Move be the key to breaking through your own creative barriers?
The tool that finally helps you capture that spark and turn it into something truly special, no matter where you are.
Think about it. Until next time.
See you in the next deep dive.